Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday Conversation with Friends. And today I have with me violinist Cory Lee. I met Cory about 9 years ago, actually at the Carnegie Hall. He was performing there, so was I. We met, and I realized this is a very unusual musician. So, to tell you a little bit about Cory, and this is the cute part. His mother was still probably is a Suzuki violin teacher. So he started playing on a tissue box taped with a ruler since he was 2.5. And then, of course, later on, this tissue box player ended up at Juilliard and later on at Yale, finished your master's degree there, and then had a very unusual performance career. And first, he developed basically it's called Liberated Performer, which is helping people to overcome anxieties which are associated with performing and auditioning. And I think sometimes that even affects the way a person practices because you recall the anxiety you experience. So then he joined a group called Ethel, and they are the resident artists there. What do you guys call yourselves for the Met?
We in normal times we work at the Balcony Bar, which is live music Fridays, Saturdays, 5 p.m. through 8 p.m. And when we're on tour, we bring in our friends or local musicians, and they entertain the crowd there. But yeah, it's been awesome. And then during COVID, we work on the Facebook's version of the Balcony Bar.
Right, I watched
So
some of those.
yeah,
Hmm.
we assemble digital media and just try to give a really relaxing vibe or very, present different artists on
Hmm.
on the platform.
Corey's the group that you're part of is Ethel, and it's a chamber music group, but it's not your regular chamber music group. So when you go perform at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, how much can you explore with those unusual ideas you guys come up with?
Um, for the balcony bar, it's not like a full live concert where you have access to screens or anything, but we're just amplified and we get to share the music of our friends, which usually come from very diverse types of cultures, because we're always open to anybody's repertoire, not just Western music, but
Mm.
we love to collaborate and learn, most importantly, learn from collaborators like Robert Mirabal, who's a Native American flute player. He definitely teaches you something about performance practice and just presentation and the different colors and improvisation
Mm.
and different South American rhythms and things like that. I mean, it's like really interesting. So we
Wow.
get to present, all sorts of different uh, types of cultures and music styles. Um,
Wow.
but
That
in
must
terms
be.
of like multimedia, where
Yes.
it's more just like a normal experience.
Well, it's already multimedia just by being inside the museum because people are going to
Oh
have
yeah,
other stimulations, right? So yeah,
yeah,
that's
that's
so
true. Yeah,
interesting. Right. And that's something I do miss about being able to go to the live performances in New York City, particularly. There's a lot of unusual programming. And I remember one of the last concerts I did in New York was all Spanish. Of course, a Chinese person doing a Spanish program, and it was exploring the Cuban colonialism, and so it was very interesting. But that's the kind of diversity I think sometimes we really enjoy, and sometimes it's missed in other parts of the country or even the world. And so I thank you for working on that type of projects because I think it makes it so interesting. And we will be able to watch some of the clips from Ethel because now talk to me a little bit about what that group is. What is your core value for that group?
Ethel is fundamentally, a string quartet, right? We have our instrumentation are two violins, one viola, and a cello. But at the core of it is really like exploration. Um, I wouldn't maybe innovation, but just again curiosity. Willing to try things out, bringing people together through music. As a community, right? Reaching out through music to different cultures to bridge the gap, right? And that kind of exploration, curiosity, and community focus really helps us produce our musical content and have organic, forming, authentic forming programs, such as The River, right, with our longtime friend and just amazing inspiration, Robert Mirabal, as I mentioned earlier. Or we can play with the jazz pianist, Lawrence Hopgood, who's an absolute genius who just challenges us harmonically like crazy. Coming from a classical background and going to jazz, I'm like, whoa, way over my head.
I know, right? Wow.
Thankfully, Kip Jones is the jazz guy. He went to Berkeley, so he really coaches us on just, styles and how to hear things. But yeah, definitely was not trained at Juilliard like that. Although there's amazing jazz at Juilliard, right? For sure. That's one of my favorite memories.
Yeah, I just had a conversation with somebody last night because I was talking about for a lot of schools like Juilliard, like where I went to school at SC, you actually have good jazz programs, but it's so detached from what I experienced at the conservatory style training that it just, I almost didn't realize they were there because it's so detached. And I did another interview with a cellist, Eugene Friesen. I don't know if you're familiar with Eugene. And he teaches at Berkeley, and he's part of a trio. And he was obviously trained as a classical cellist, but he departed and gone into a lot of improv work. And his work is not only to perform as a cellist who improvs as well as classical, but he also teaches other string players to improv. So now, Cory, how did you embark on this journey? Because your training starting with a Suzuki on a tissue box. I love that story. It's so awesome. I need you to tell the story. Tell the story, then we're going to go on.
Well, yeah, my mom's a Suzuki teacher. So all the pre-twinklers, like basically very, I guess, toddlers, I guess, right? Like 2.5, 3, 4, 5 years old. The first violin is usually a Kleenex box taped with a ruler as a scroll, and then you can have some sort of stick, maybe like 2 chopsticks or like 1 long wooden stick. But the idea behind that is to start familiarizing yourself with the violin, listening to music, listening to other people play in group classes, learning how to bow, take a bow on stage, learning the basic rhythms of twinkles like taka, taka, stop, stop, like that, with your friends. It's a very social environment. And then, of course, if you drop your violin, it's not a big deal. It's literally an empty Kleenex box.
Or you can step on it or sit on it.
I mean, but that's also part of the training, is to kind of respect the instrument, because it is valuable, even if it is a Kleenex box, right? You're teaching, a good principle there.
That's so.
And then,
wow, that's cute, actually. And then,
and then, just growing up in the Suzuki culture was probably the best, because literally, it's so social. Like, it's not like, oh, every toddler that walks in is going to be the next Ethel Perlman. It's like you get to grow into whoever you want to be, in a very social gather, like a group, in a very social group. So like I have many very close friends that are from group class. And I mean, that's some of the stuff that keeps you going, for sure. And it's the social aspect.
Cory you have a great sense of humor. And that's what struck me when I first met you. And of course, then during the process of preparing for our conversation today, I did a little social media snooping, and I saw your clip on the YouTube, which you guys, if you Google Cory Lee Violinist, you can probably find this clip. And that's the little violin, the little Paganini.
The next piece is Paganini Caprice No. 5. Oh, I forgot my violin.
When I Googled and tried to look for this clip again, all I found was a bunch of 6-year-olds playing Paganini.
So funny.
I know the complex that's given to people who are grown-ups, and let's talk about that a little bit, because we talked about part of your work is working with people's anxieties and audition preparations. And you talked about the kids nowadays are just getting better and better and better. And tell me a little bit about your experience working with students and working with your fellow musicians on those type of things, and what you're seeing nowadays that may be a little different than 10 years ago, or are they different?
Yep.
Hmm.
It's definitely different. So 10 years ago, I was on my own personal journey to try to figure the whole audition and anxiety and performance thing out. Like I would be practicing for hours, doing all my homework, and doing well in the practice room. But when it came to the stage, like I definitely had some obstacles to overcome and some confusion too, because like we're all taught that like, oh, if you practice more, then you'll be fine. But that's totally not the case. And I've been lucky to work with literally all ages. So I think the oldest person I've worked with was 66 or something,
Wow.
with stage fright in an orchestra. And then obviously, younger kids at Suzuki camps as well. And then you have teenagers at, like the New York Youth Symphony, that are auditioning for either the orchestra or for college, to major in music. So it's like a whole wide range of talent levels, life experiences, especially with the age gap. But it all comes down to kind of some fundamental things like, are you okay with, being rejected socially? And also, do you have like a really good preparation process that can help you even if you do get a little bit nervous? And I think over the 10 years, it's really changed, because back when I was younger and in school trying to figure this out for myself, a lot of the strategies were managing techniques. so they would help you manage it, so we all know that breathing deeply and visualization, all that stuff helps, and I still use it. I mean, it's great stuff. It's like timeless strategies, used for sports, used for the Super Bowl, etc. So it's something to learn for sure, but it's really the second step, which is to be really okay with yourself and to be able to go on stage and just focus on your playing and just really enjoy the moment, and to not be worried about making mistakes, which ironically helps you perform better than if you were worrying about mistakes. But that kind of transition to being quote unquote liberated from this social judgment, and as an artist, like you got to be that, or else you're just going to be either stuck in a box in a way, or I mean, you're just going to be stuck and you can't express yourself, and that limits your communication.
Right.
And I think really the nail in the coffin for this point is that when you talk to big international competition winners, right?
Which
the
you
most
are.
like pressure filled whatever.
Right?
They always go on the final round, and you ask them, oh, how'd you play so well? It's like, oh, I just focused on myself. I didn't really care of the outcome. And I think that's a huge mindset shift from trying to get the validation of other people, and growing your tough skin to respond to rejection, whether it's a newspaper or a friend or a family member. Is like, that's a big point, is to be truly liberated in this box that we put ourselves in, and also the culture, specifically of classical music, puts on a performer. So that I think that's a shift that I'm trying to push for, which is kind of why I just so passionate about it and why it's so rewarding, because you get to reach, especially like the teenagers who are just about to go into college or something, and with this mindset they can hopefully navigate better and come out a stronger performer, like much faster than me. Well, or even if working with older person, to finally get a consistent, maybe last year before retirement, just these nice free experiences without beta blockers, to just enjoy the music and play and enjoy the moment.
I think the contradiction in this whole thing is you somehow have to care but not care,
Yeah, and I think you have to be driven by the value that you want to produce something awesome, but you yourself should validate it, not somebody else.
And I think it's interesting because I think in a conservatory environment, that is a real challenge. You're amongst a lot of very talented people, and they're only people who are in your class. Now, you think about all the people who are coming in and the people who are already out there. It could be a very daunting thought, and it could be paralyzing.
Yeah, I think that experience pushes you to be really good at your instrument or your craft. And there is no lie that my classmates kicked my butt and continue to inspire me today. But ultimately, they're not the audience.
No.
They are part of the audience. But in conservatory, you get so focused on that audience, it gives you kind of weird experiences. So that's why a lot of times what we do in, let's say, a coaching session is we go out and play in public.
First of all, how did you connect with your group? Because your group was already in existence for quite a while before you joined them, and they already had a vision, right?
My last year at Juilliard, one of the former members of Ethel came in and spoke in this business class, talking about all the wild gigs. So I wasn't ready for the message. But then after Yale, I was already, creating a lot of different explorations about how to, say, use an electric violin, use guitar pedals, use guitar sound effects, use software programs like DAWs, like Ableton, MIDI foot pedals, and using it to kind of remake some of the classics. So I started off very classical, um, for example, in with the simple idea of looping uh, the Bach partita, which happens to be harmonically the same for multiple movements, and just kind of layering them over each other. So I was already on this path of just like being very curious about, what can happen. And then upon graduation, I moved to New York, and I got really lucky because right after graduation, the former member of Ethel knew me and recommended for me to audition.
Mm-hmm.
So I checked out Ethel's stuff this time, a few years later after that Juilliard class, and I was like, this is an awesome group. They fundamentally align with both my values, like in my type of playing and curiosity. And I was like, oh, let's do it, because you would see these multimedia projects like Documerica, which took the archive of the EPA and compose music to it. You would see all these different types of collaborations with other cultures and music, and I was like, all right, I'm going to learn so much from these people, which I still do, and we're going to be curious, together and make some weird stuff,
Yeah.
work really hard at it, try to sell it, perform, and just be fearless. Um, and so I was like, all right. So I actually used the Liberated Performer preparation process to make sure I went in there and knock it out of the park. So I felt really confident about my preparation, and on a cold day, I went in there for the first round, got called back, did it again, and before you know it, I'm playing with
That's so awesome.
Ethel.
That's
Yeah,
so
and it's
awesome.
been with them for uh, 2015, so I guess almost 6 years,
Wow.
going
Wow.
on 6 years,
Yeah.
and
So yeah.
really
So
opened my eyes to what you can do as an artist.
yeah.
We took a couple months to really get in the groove of producing uh, these 20-minute videos presenting different artists. Of course,
Mm,
sharing the stage. That's huge with Ethel, is to always share the stage,
mm.
um, and to put it on Facebook. And I think that it's reached a lot of people. I would say it's not big for like social media numbers, but I think it's around maybe like 17,000,
That's
each
awesome.
Friday.
Wow. That's a
Um,
lot.
and, and it's cool because we get to reconnect with our friends and meet new people.
Mm.
And even though sometimes we become the editors, we get to really do the Ethel thing, which is to communicate and collaborate. It's been good direction into the digital world. Um, the the other thing we're doing is we're also fundamentally preparing for what's after COVID. The other digital goals we're going for uh, resulted in an exploration of digital uh, products, I guess. Not products, but like pieces, digital pieces.
Mhm.
For example, we're looking into 360 right now, and creating environments with our music, possibly with us in it too. But we're looking at that form because we find it pretty interesting, and we have a great community that we can reach from that will help us build that. Because with collaboration, with all the multimedia stuff we do, it's always because we have good collaborators
It's so
and
important.
we allow them to collaborate.
Can we
I mean,
talk
it's both ways,
about
but
that
yeah.
a little bit? Because I think collaboration is a huge thing. And but to collaborate successfully, you have to have a particular mindset. I found that one of the keys that I believe in is to leave room for the other person, to let them uh, express. To not let is not even the right word because that's implying that one person or one group is in charge versus the true collaboration is coming together and let ideas grow together. So can you talk a little bit about your experiences with Ethel and with the collaborators and how you work together, a behind the scene kind of a foray into how do you make that happen?
Yeah. Um, yeah, joining Ethel has really taught me a lot about collaboration because before Ethel, I was just collaborating on my own, really. I mean, if
You
there's
gotta
the tech
collaborate
equipment,
with
you learn,
me and my
you know,
toys, right? Yeah.
yeah, because like there was nobody really else out there at that time. But um, yeah, working with all sorts of different types of collaborators really helps kind of shine a light on what's important. For example, visual artist,
Mm,
projection designer, um, costume person, like different musical styles, different technique that was built in for their instrument, all that stuff. It immediately forces you to have an open mind to create an open space, and
mm,
that comes from the curiosity.
right.
The that that kind of trait is like you don't come with a game plan. It's like you come with that open mind, and it sounds cheesy, but that's actually where some of the best work is created. It's like how do you make authentic um, collaborations? Is when both are like openly going back and forth, and then you have like 80 ideas, and then it's down to two ideas, and it's like, oh, that's the one, right? And of course, you can collaborate the other way when people are like, okay, I'm going to hire you to do this soundtrack, do
Right.
this score, and
Mm,
that's totally fine. But more the ethical collaboration is creating a space where you can go back and forth. Now, of course, that gets really kind of frothy, and like, oh, let's just do this, and like, so there are some guiding stars, like
mhm,
is are there technical limitations, like working with a visual artist,
mhm.
doing design, like are there technical limitations to the performance venues we're at? Yes, there are. Okay, so that's got to be something that boxes our creativity in, which is good because without guidelines and and structure, creativity is actually a little bit harder sometimes.
Because the
So
possibilities could be endless, and then you can't
yeah,
really settle down with a framework,
yeah,
which you need a
yeah,
framework. Framework helps you to build around it. That's a difference, I think, between a framework
exactly,
and a box. A box, you jammed into that shape. With a framework, you build on it, and
yeah,
and I think it's so true because I remember when I would speak with various people about collaborating with certain multimedia projects. And the first thing they often say is, "Oh, tell me, what do you want me to do? Is there a theme, a thing you want me to do?" And I would say, "No, not really. But maybe we can discuss the type of repertoire that I think I would like to express through for this program, and then you tell me what your thoughts are." But it's so more often than not that the people I spoke with um, initially didn't know what to do with that. And
hmm
then after the first communication, when they realized I really meant, what do you want to do? And they're so excited because now they can be free.
yeah,
Now they can be free. And then very interesting things like that happens, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's exactly right on point. That
right.
the creation behind you. I mean, that
Yes.
would not exist.
Right.
It's
It
something you can
literally
never
would
just
not exist.
direct somebody to do. It's like that came from within.
Yeah, yeah, because for those of you who don't know, this was a piece that was painted on stage during one of my performances, where it was multimedia and it was me and another pianist and a live artist who's on stage and a movie screen size screen above, behind all of us, above us, that was showing my friend's original photography. And there were times the light was almost completely muted except the screen, and you hear the music coming out of the darkness. And then the red lights would shine on me as I was singing certain music. And then the lights sometimes will move to the artist. And this artist painted this on stage based on how he felt because of what was going on around him. And then he said this was a picture of my voice, and so I had to have it. And but you cannot pre-plan those things. You cannot pre-plan those things. You do have enough logistics, but there are certain
Yeah.
things that really happens because this is so corny, but it's so true because of the inspiration strikes, you know? Yeah.
hmm
Yes. So now that sounds so exciting. And I've always, the first time I met Cory was when he was performing a piece and talk about the piece and what you did with it with us. That was a long time ago.
No, that was a long time ago. But I had a quick set. I started with John Corigliano's Red Violin Caprice, and I wanted to turn it into kind of like a guitar shred solo on the acoustic violin, kind of like a show opener. And then I went to Bach Partita #1, which is, as I mentioned earlier, there's one movement, and then there's a second movement who shares the same harmony. So I wanted to do that looping on stage, live looping on stage. So record the first movement, then play the second movement on top of that, etc. And I wanted to really push the artistic challenge of looping, because looping itself is usually, very short things with a strict rhythm. But with the Bach, it's so free in time, the Baroque style. You can't calculate it. You just have to practice it a bunch and just kind of listen and respond. But that was the fun challenge for me for that. So then it went from one kind of guitar acoustic shred solo to two violins, even though it's just me on stage still with a cheap looping station from Guitar Center, which I think is still working. No, I gave it to one of my students. All right, yeah.
It's
And
still
then
working in somebody else's house, right?
it's a hand-me-down. And then the third piece I played was Violin Phase by Steve Reich, which was originally meant for either multiple violinists or a pre-recorded track. And since it was minimalism, it had just one recurring musical thing, and it would be again live looped. So I would record it, and then it would just play over and over, and then I would play the exact same thing over it to make the next phase, and then again and again. And I wanted to use my guitar pedals, so I took my organic violin sound through the microphone, put it through a guitar effect of the octave, just a simple octave effect, dropped it down to kind of hit the viola range or the cello range. And then I dropped it down again as the piece went on to make a bass, kind of electronic bass sound, again, through the organic sounding violin form. It wasn't like pre-recorded. So it was like all live looping, all live sound effects. And by the end of the set, it was kind of this wall of sound kind of phasing in and out as a piece dictates. The timing is not just super rhythmic, it fluctuates. It phases in and out, and then it reaches a pattern, and then it phases in and out, and then reaches another pattern. So yeah, just doing my arrangements of those. It was really exciting.
Yeah, I was there. It was really exciting indeed. Yes,
Fun.
yes. It was awesome. Well, Cory, it's been so awesome to catch up with you. It's been a long time since I've spoken with you, and I've been watching what you've been doing for the past 9 years, and it's just been exciting to see all the things started happening and growing. And I saw some of the things that you posted that you've done with Ethel. It's just really fun and exciting. And I hope we will have the opportunity to have another conversation that maybe after COVID is over and after everything starts to run again, because I have a feeling after this year and a half, God knows how much longer, but hopefully not much longer. I think the creativity that will come out of this on the other end will be very different. And I would love to have another conversation then to maybe find out what did you and your group do.
Definitely. I
After
think we got a lot of exciting projects coming up. So
That's exciting. I'd
yeah,
love to hear more about it. I'm sure other people would as well. So thank you so much.
yeah,
And until next time, and thank you, Cory. And so hopefully another time we're going to have another conversation.
definitely.
Yes. So see you next time.
All right. Thanks, Shirley.